Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got part 2 of episode 3 of In the Studio, and we're going to have n0tail joining us in just a moment. But before we bring him on, we want to set the stage a little bit. The first topic we're going to tackle is event scheduling in Dota 2 right now. There's a lot of tournaments and a lot of money attached to these tournaments, which is a good thing, but some teams have been having some struggles. There's one instance that comes to mind in particular with D2CL, and it's getting towards the big part of that tournament. It's over $100,000 in prizes. And there was that Cloud9 Fnatic best of 5 series, and Fnatic was late to the series, and they were forfeited 1 game. They were actually supposed to be forfeited 2 games, but they were a little bit lax on the second one because Daily Motion was having some issues, so things would have been delayed anyway. So they counted that as kind of one match. And of course, we were going to talk about it last week. It was like breaking news when we were doing the show last Sunday. And we wanted to bring on n0tail or Street, but they were both rather furious and didn't want to make a statement in the heat of the moment, which I can respect. You know, sometimes you just have to walk away, reset a little bit, and then come back. So we'll get n0tail's take on it. But what do you guys think? Scheduling kind of macroscopically, are there almost too many tournaments going on right now?
My basic feeling is teams get to choose, right? If you need to set your teams ultimately set their own schedules. When any event goes to set the schedule, they might say, okay, here's the proposed schedule. And then normally what most events do is the managers have a chance to give their feedback if there's going to be conflicts. Now, sometimes matches run late. Sometimes teams don't leave a whole lot of margin for error. And generally, most events try to be a bit flexible. So, if they've got to wait 30 minutes, they'll do it. But ultimately, it's each event's right to kind of set their rules. And the way that I look at it, it's a first world problem. It's a good problem to have. Too many events, top teams, and highly in demand and getting to choose.
There's just too much money. We can't pick which tournaments we want to play. It's true.
So ultimately, I think it's a good thing for the scene that the teams have these kinds of issues. It's better than the alternative of, they'll play any $500 cup, the best players in the world, which you go back 2 years ago, teams would play pretty much anything, even small $1,000 tournaments. So I think overall it's a good problem. For me, I think ultimately the onus is on the teams just to make sure to choose what they want to play and to make sure they're following the event's rules. I don't really know what transpired with D2CL, so I'm talking more in general. I think it's a good problem, and I think teams just, it's up to them how many events they want to play. If a team wants to play 50 tournaments and they can schedule it, great. But most teams want some downtime. They want to have a life, go out on the weekends, drink a little.
So, boys, on the analysis side, any thoughts before we bring on our guest?
I agree mostly with what David said, but the other side of the coin is maybe it's hard to justify, I guess, maybe to your organization, maybe to the higher ups in your group. Because if you work for an organization, a lot of times the contractual obligation is if you win a tournament, your organization gets a cut of the prize money. I don't know what Fnatic's deal is. We might not go into that. But a lot of times, if you win a tournament, your organization does get a certain amount of that money. So the organization is obviously going to want to press their teams to play as many games as possible. So it becomes a weird, almost a tug of war between the players being like, hey, if we play too many games, we won't be able to practice. We're going to be worked out. We might have scheduling issues, and we won't play as well. Versus, well, as many chances to make money as possible.
But
so
teams generally have an interest in their teams doing well in events because that brings in sponsors. Yes. Good results mean a lot of teams take a percentage of prize earnings. Normally, it varies depending on how big the prize pool is. If it's a small event, they might not take a cut at all. I know for some teams, and if it's like TI, maybe they take 5-10%. It just depends on the team.
The most common model I've seen is it kind of scales upward, where there's that threshold of, all right, if it's $1,000 or less, you keep all the money, and then it scales up. And the larger the tournament prize, like anything over $100,000, is a lower threshold. So
now some teams don't take a percentage at all, so this obviously doesn't really apply to them.
Right.
Okay.
So, Gods, anything before we bring on n0tail?
No, I just want to talk to n0tail.
You just want to talk to n0tail?
Bring him on.
Let's get him on.
Let's get him on. So,
is he with us?
n0tail, my friend. There's the thumbs up from the production guy. n0tail, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm great. Thanks for asking, and hope you guys are doing well too. Am I coming through clear?
Yeah, you sound great. You sound great, and you look great, buddy. So, to get things started off, talk to us about the D2CL debacle, where you guys were forced to forfeit the first game in that best of 5.
Well, it's like many other things. It's a lot of parties involved. Like you could say it's a lot. You could say it's a few. It's the administration connected to our manager, not usually connected to us, and then our manager to us. Like that's the link, the 3-way link, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So when we were finishing our game, that was why we were late. We were playing best of 3 against best of 2, I think, against Empire, and I think that was it. And then we actually ended up even forfeiting that game in the very end, even though we had 2 Raxes down, and whatever, we were supposed to win. And then Empire still wanted to give us a win, thanks to those guys, by the way. But then, yes, we were late after all, and we had no clue that we were going to get a death loss, like us as players. So what happens afterwards is we try and figure out why. We obviously still try to avoid getting a death loss, try and talk sense with the admin, saying, well, yes, it is our fault with the scheduling somewhat. There's certain things that are out of your control, and then you just got to pick which game you want to lose. But bottom line was that we weren't made clear that we were going to get a death loss, even though it says it in the rule. It says it in the rules. When you have a direct link or communication ongoing on Skype with someone in charge, someone who's going to give you the death loss, you'd figure that he would make it very clear that you're about to get a death loss. If he is like, if your manager's AFK and whatever, then it's even more your fault. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's not really anyone to blame, but I guess us, like Fnatic and us, for not making it to the game, doesn't matter what reason. But in the end, it was like a lot of communicational stuff that could have been improved. And I don't think it was handled the way that most tournaments would handle it.
Yeah.
One question for me: if let's say the tournament, like D2CL, tell your manager, hey, you guys better get a death loss, can your manager then contact you while the game's going on and let you guys know, look, you guys need to leave this game? Because with a joint Dota League game, it's a pretty small prize pool compared to D2CL. Not that something that doesn't really matter as much as D2CL. So is he able to actually contact you in the middle of the game and tell you guys you need to leave, or is that just not possible?
It's very possible. It was done as well that day.
Okay.
Like, that was how we left the game, because we were told that we had to join right then and there, that some stuff was going on. But yeah, in the end, like, none of the 5 of us were aware that we were actually about to get a death loss in a tournament like that. Because normally you get cut some slack in these tournaments that have a lot of hype about them, because people really want to see all the games played, as many games as possible. So even if you're a bit late, then you would usually just have the games played out either way. I mean, the only times where I've seen death losses really being given out is when teams ask for it. Like, some teams have a tight schedule as well, especially when it comes to the American scene playing against European scene. They play at weird hours sometimes against us, and they have stuff to do. I get that. So if the other team is late, I think it's fair for a team to ask for the win. But C9 were not gonna ask for the death win in this case. It was just the admin having this thing about enforcing rules, and it's also kind of rare to see.
Yeah, and part of the issue, I think, with this particular instance is that the match series had already been rescheduled once because you guys were having some communication issues. So I think that might be part of the reason why D2CL admins felt more like, we've already done this once, we put our foot down now, no more delays, we are starting on time, whether you like it or not, Fnatic. So maybe there was some sort of added precursor to this particular situation.
But it's like n0tail said, like, you're shooting yourself in your foot. Okay, in the foot. Like, was it a best of 5 or a best of 3?
Best of 5.
It was a best of 5. Okay, so if you take a death loss, right, and you get 2-0, and I think y'all ended up losing the series, but you took a game, right?
Yes.
It ended up being 3-1. Okay, so say Cloud9 wins the first 2 games. So instead of having a minimum of 3 games played in a best of 5, you all of a sudden just have a 2-0 win for Cloud9. And having 2 games played over the course of 2 hours doesn't give you very much viewer ramp up. It doesn't give you a whole lot of time to, like, get viewers and an enjoyable match. It's also like going ahead and giving a game to a team without, like, the tenseness of having, that game being played. So it just seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot, like you're ruining your own tournament's, like, atmosphere by doing this.
It's just a trade-off, basically.
That's true, but at the same time, I feel like the big issue, like the big problem I have with this is the same one n0tail is that the communication was poor from the admins, but at the same time, I think the admins are in their right to enforce the rules. The problem is they didn't communicate with Fnatic that they were going to enforce the rules. Because I think, sure, you maybe have 2 games, it's bad for your tournament, like you say, you don't get viewers, you don't get revenue, but if the admins want to enforce the rules, then at the harm to their own tournament, they have every right to do so. The problem is they didn't communicate that to Fnatic.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the community wants, right? There's all those posts where people are like, I didn't go out tonight in some cases because I wanted to see, like, Navi versus Alliance or whatever.
Right.
The match gets delayed. Now the fans are upset. You have broadcasters who are sitting around waiting in some cases if they're not also casting the event before it, and they're all, like n0tail said, there's a lot of parties involved. So it's not just the players and the admin sorting out; it's the other team who has to sit around and wait. And ultimately, maybe none of them care, but I think it's just a trade-off for the event. Do they want to lose revenue to, and maybe some viewers and maybe upset some people to kind of show that they're serious? Or would they rather just kind of be lax. But the
Yeah.
community wants them, for the most part, it seems like people, they're a little bit torn when it's their favorite team, but I'd say overall, and in like a general sense, people want the rules to be enforced.
Yeah, and it is a weird balancing act, like you guys were talking about. When you have these huge teams, like your Navis, your Fnatics, your Cloud9s, you don't want to have to disqualify them. Especially a team like Navi, they have a huge brand. There are games where we see in Starladder, it can be Navi versus, the 18th team out of an 18-round robin, but you still have 15, 20K viewers because people just want to see Navi.
Yeah.
Can you really justify disqualifying them because they're 20 or 30 minutes late?
Well, I think for the tournament organizers' point of view, if you don't at some point put your foot down, the teams won't respect you. They'll try to walk all over you.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about that, n0tail? Is like, where does that balance lie right now? Do organizers have more power? Do teams? What's your take?
I think people should look at what Starladder is doing and take that as an inspiration to how to run tournaments. Really, they're doing it perfect. They always start on time. They always have hours where people are gonna know that they can tune in and actually watch Dota. And max games are gonna be delayed. Like, I'm not talking about lately due to all this server issues. That's out of your hands. But normally, you always know the Starladder games are going to be played on time because they are very strict. But they do it. They actually use what they have at their hands, which is the penalty time in Dota. They just say if you're 5 minutes late, you get the first penalty, which is 30 seconds. So then it's 60 seconds, then it's 90 seconds, and then it's all of your bonus time. And then the last one is death loss. And so you see it stepping up, and you know that the death loss is going to come. So you see those games pretty much always running on time because people don't want their bonus time to be taken away anyway.
Mhm.
And that's, I guess, why it's also easier for them since they have a million games to stream. And in D2CL, I mean, mostly D2CL, they have the finals and semifinals and all that played online as well, where Starladder doesn't. And
Right.
giving a death loss in later stages of tournaments is, that's what you really want to avoid. But
Yeah.
if they just use that system that Starladder did, I do think that teams are going to be taking it a lot more serious, or like know that it's going to happen. Like the punishments are always going to be there because we always show up on time on Starladder because we know that they don't give a. So they just
right, it
Yeah.
kind of comes back to the admins respect you. I think the other thing with Starladder is their scheduling format. They have like a set block. It's like six game slots a day.
Yeah.
Normally they only schedule 4, and then they give teams 2 wild cards. So obviously it's a huge tournament. You don't want to waste a wild card because somebody wants to go drink or whatever. But if you have another major tournament conflict, you can reschedule a match within like I think it's like 12 hours the night before, 18 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
So it gives teams flexibility, and when you do round robin, scheduling is way easier because it doesn't matter what order the games are played in. When you do a bracket, then it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah, other matches are waiting for previous matches.
Right,
to
you
finish.
can't play the grand finals before you've played the loser bracket, that type of thing.
So is it safe to say that you like the wildcard system that Starladder has set up, n0tail?
Yeah, no, that thing is perfect. It leaves room for both teams and the tournament, like the admins and schedulers. They both have room to try and solve things. Plus, they leave a lot of extra days, and I think for having whatever matches got too tangled up to eventually play, like it's flexibility but also structure. So I think that people should take a look at what Starladder is doing. I mean, basically the main thing is the whole penalty stuff because that's gonna get teams joining on time, and I definitely think that's something to look into.
Oops, sorry. How serious is having that bonus time for drafting? Would you say that like if you're all of your bonus time is taken away because you were at that threshold right before getting the death loss, how critical is that? How much does that impact the game and the draft not having that bonus time if your opponent does have full time?
It can be the difference between stomping the enemy and actually losing to them because like you see a lot of good teams, they like to spend their bonus time, especially in the beginning, thinking about what kind of trade they want to start off with. But not only that, the bonus time is something you can use to figure out the best way to approach this game, or the sneakiest way to approach this game, or whatever. It's obvious that if you had 10 minutes drafting, you're gonna come out with something better than someone who had 30 seconds drafting. So the more time, the better. The main thing would be the fear factor that when your bonus time is up, then you're gonna get death loss. Then you have 0 chance of winning.
I think that's a good point because also when we're kind of at the not really the end of the patch's lifespan, but we're a solid 2 months into 6.8 now.
Something like that.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a lot more set what teams like to run on this patch, right? We kind of know what the strongest heroes are, and so the draft is almost more important now because at the beginning of a patch things are kind of up in the air. Like anybody can pick anybody because it might be good. And so now with picks of set, like we see in the Chinese scene, like Rasta, AA, it's almost always first pick, first ban. Lycan is getting that way. You know what it is because we're towards the end of the patch. And now losing that bonus time in a period of time like now is even worse, in my opinion. Like, do you think when you get to a period like now where drafts are a bit more, I guess, predictable, that having that penalized bonus time is even worse, n0tail, or is it? You think there's a difference?
I can't really say if there's so much of a difference. I get what you're saying that things are becoming a lot more stable. Like in the beginning of the patch, every team would draft completely different. Now it's a lot more similar. What you see is, yeah, as you say, the general A and general push with Rasta and Lycan. But I'm not sure which would matter the most. In a way, it matters more now, I guess, since before you kind of only ban for certain teams, whereas now you have to think a lot more to come up with something new. Like you need more time to find the best trade-offs and the best way to, I don't know, sneak a victory, cheese your way forward. So I guess the time is more valuable now, but it's too hard to say. It all comes down to so many things. Every second, a million things happen in Dota. So, like saying that how much the seconds matter now in the draft is too hard to say.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. And as we move forward here, one of the things we want to talk to you about a little bit is your LAN presence. And we've got a video that we want to run, and it's been pretty popularized as the "fuck him up" video. And Roland, go ahead and roll that.
Blink, let me take it.
Do it quite fast.
We need a word though somewhere.
Yeah, Tal has it.
That's the
Can
same
you
thing
try to
getting
block?
ready.
Can you try to block the hook?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Where is
stay.
that? It's up here.
I'm staying here. Staying here.
They're going,
Oh,
they're
Tal,
going
not you,
for it.
not you. We have four spears.
They're going for it.
Well, let's switch new shit on them. You get it.
Oh, that
Do you
didn't
wanna take
work.
the fight?
Yes, almost dead. Adrian,
Get it, get Roche, get Roche, get Roche. Get Roche, get Roche, get Roche, I'm gonna die.
gotta sneak it, man. Close.
Careful.
You got it, you got
Get
it,
it
you got
fast,
it.
get it fast, get it fast. Nice. You go. Ready? Let the fucking DK fuck him up! Fuck him up!
You should care, man. Watch out, watch out.
I
I
make
can't
it
still catch,
slow.
I can't still catch.
I'm fine, I'm dead.
Kill the DK, kill the DK.
I have Vegas, I have Vegas.
He's training, he's training, he's training.
Oh, no, he's not, he's not. Get them.
Back, no, back.
I gotta ask him, me. I gotta ask him, me.
DK
Try to get
solo.
out, try to get out. I'm gonna die.
I'm tipping out. If I
Get
can.
out, get out, get out.
Oh man, Trixie.
So, n0tail, we know that you couldn't see the video, but I'm sure you remember that epic moment. Talk to us a little bit about your LAN presence in general. You seem to be much more hyped than the rest of your team. One of my favorite parts about that video is that you're screaming, hands in the air, fist pumping, and Era's just sitting next to you, still as a rock, just not even looking over, just like he's completely used to it, just like, oh yes, n0tail's going crazy. I'm going to focus. What's going on there?
I think this originates from me having been too much on like LAN net cafes. I tend to get too personal, or not too personal, but I tend to get very personal with the people I play with, like or against, and it's something that's always stuck with me. Like that's where I came from when I started playing. It was on net cafes, like next to other people, and then it was all about trashing each other, making each other feel bad, and well, it was also to hype each other. But I think that's just where it came from, and it stuck with me. I always do it. I love doing it. It's a way to get a lot of frustration out of the way, or yeah, just getting each other pumped up. It's a great feeling. So
What does your team think about it? Are they excited when you get excited, or is it that kind of, oh, n0tail's at it again, gosh darn it?
I think Fly told me like a lot of times that he loves it when it happens, but it's really not something I think about when it happens. Like after it, I just feel super pumped, and I just keep playing. But I'm still in the game. Like that's the funny part. I don't really think about it at all.
Yeah, we have another clip that I think you can roll while we're talking about it, Roland, where I always love the hands off the keyboard. That's what's always so exciting about it for me. It's not just that you're yelling, that you jump up and hands in the air while the team fight's going on, just like, get him! Get him! Oh shit, I gotta start playing again. It's always really comical. I look forward to seeing Fnatic on LAN just for that.
Right. I've heard some people call you like the ROTK of the West in terms of like the way you act at LANs, and I like that coming from someone with like a history in like competitive sports and stuff. I feel like that kind of competitive edge is missing in some players. Some players are a little too deadpan or just. I like seeing the drive and the energy.
Nothing is worse than seeing a team where like they all just sit there like completely quiet and focused. Like sure in the big moments, but like like they win and like finally I thought Liquid was going to be like that at TI.
That was the hardest thing for me as a Liquid fan. Liquid were exactly like that. They only got excited when they won. And even when they won, it was only like Bulba got excited. No one else got that excited. Like
and they like slowly stand up.
During the game, there was no energy. Like they only excited when they won. You need the energy like while you're playing. Like you look at Na'Vi, you look at Fnatic with n0tail. Like these guys are getting pumped throughout the game. Even if you look at the Chinese teams, it's the same thing with players like ROTK and even other teams.
Well, then there were teams like LGD that were like Liquid, like Stones. But then you've got like Vici Gaming who are super hype. How goes crazy.
Man. Chuan goes fucking nuts.
I guess my question is, n0tail, do you think it gives you like an edge? Does it make a difference? Is it just more fun for you, or do you think it actually has like it makes a difference in how your team plays?
I think I think back at EMS, like there's a bit of risk to it. You start rolling really hard when you have this momentum going, and it only for me feels like you benefit a lot more when everybody's getting a lot more hyped. Everyone gets more active. Not only the volume goes up, but the amount that people speak, so you feel more in sync that way. But what happened at EMS was that we were on this giant snowball. We crushed them the first game. We were crushing them the second game, and then we found a Dragonite illusion. That was like we were both teams at this point. I think were playing in fog. We dewarded everything. They dewarded everything. Roche was up. We find a Dragonite illusion, blow Eclipse, blow everything on it, and after that the snowball just melted. Like we had no energy left. There was no will after that, and that's like that was I think it contributed to our like momentum, having all this energy and hype, but also made us crash a lot more when it happened. Yeah. So I definitely think it benefits though. Like when you look at other teams, maybe as you said, Liquid, they look really depressing sometimes, but other teams they get so hyped, and I do think that it's a genuine thing to have the snowball factor going. You just play better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember fucking mad at I think before Starladder 8, before the game started, he said something to the effect of like Sigma is a very momentum based team, and it can be a double-edged sword, I guess. If you're very momentum based and you have no momentum when the game starts, that could be a bad thing.
Yeah, it's no good.
So I guess it's finding the balance between being excited and not like being too deflated if it's not going your way.
Yeah. Right. So n0tail, if it's appropriate to talk about, I want to ask you about the Avast thing, the n0tail getting hacked live on stream. Can you talk to us about your acting credentials and how that whole thing came about?
I deserve a freaking Oscar. My acting was horrible. But I don't know. I thought it was hilarious publicity stunt, and like I don't know. I don't know how the idea came up. Whoever came up with it, I think it was like I've never seen anything like it. It was a really fun approach, and it was not set up properly, and it still worked out pretty good. So I forgot your question exactly, but
I just wanted to get your take on the whole thing and see if
it was
was Avast happy with the amount of publicity that it got?
I think everything, like all parts, were happy. I think like what people they got more than they expected. I personally thought it was great. Like idea was smart. Watched everyone else who had it going. Some did some worse acting than me. Like, but overall, I think it was a great stunt.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I got a good chuckle.
I never found out it was a stunt. I think I just saw the initial Reddit thread where it's like n0tail got hacked. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell, man? I never saw the follow up, so I thought you actually got hacked. I saw the video today. I'm like, Jesus, what? You need to exercise some like control over your computer, man. Stop playing all these porn sites. What the hell?
Some people took it really personal. Like when they found out it was a stunt, but even more so when people actually thought I was hacked. It was like, those damn DDoSers, they can't even leave us alone. I was like laughing for days straight because of this. It was good.
Oh boy. So we've got a couple community questions here as we get towards the tail end of this interview. Oh God, where's that one in there?
I'm off.
See you later, guys. He's checked out for today. This wouldn't be a n0tail interview if we didn't ask you about Meepo. Fans, I know you talk about it every single interview. we're not going to talk about the state of Meepo right now, but you did play him as a support in, I believe, the Captain's Draft tournament, and some folks were curious about that, the viability of him as a support. Can you give us the Sloan Skinny on the current state of Meepo?
I do think some teams could actually pull, like, not saying just the Meepo skill part of it, but I think some teams would be a lot more suited to play it out that way. Like, you have to put farm on the hero. Like, you have to draft in a way that you have a laner. Meepo will create the space early on, but someone else will have to make the action happen, make the space happen at one point where he then gets to catch up because he can catch up really fast. I think the way that our team works is some of us needs to get jack shit. We can't get anything, and some people need to have everything for us to win, sort of thing. So I don't know how good it would work if we were to play it a lot more, but I definitely think it's viable. You get two heroes at level 3, which leaves for a 4-second in snare, which is enough to kill most things at that stage of the game. And it's pretty powerful just with the poof for harassing certain heroes the same way Keep Up the Forest is good against melee heroes. Meepo is the same deal. You get close, you can get poof damage, and it's really efficient. So it's viable. I don't think that we're gonna be able to pull it off again with this roster. Our roster is it's still something we're working around with. Who gets to farm what is something that's always been a problem with us. We have a lot of farmers or people who like to take a lot of farm, and I'm not one of them. I don't get anything. So
You sound slightly salty.
I'm a bit salty. When I play pubs, I take it all, and then you go from hero to zero in officials. But that's the way some teams play. Like every team has a different. You look at Alliance, and each M is often someone to take a lot of farm. So it's again different from every team.
Or Owie 2000 as well, I guess.
Or Aoi, exactly. It's a lot hero dependent, but in general, like we're not really a team that pulls that kind of stuff out, like a carry Visage or a Visage that turns into a carry destroyer.
So what do you think about Earth Spirit and Techies eventually perhaps making their way into the competitive scene? Earth Spirit maybe a little bit sooner than Techies, but what's your take on those heroes?
I'm a big fan of Techies. I don't understand why he's not there yet. I missed the guy. It was so fun. It was a extra dimension to the game. You suddenly had traps everywhere, like real traps that hurt, and they freaking kill you. And then, like you had the whole. I don't know. I miss Techies bottom line, but Earth Spirit, I'm not that keen on him going competitive yet. I know that no one really plays him anymore after the nerf. Like no one's famous for playing it anymore, and you don't really see him in pubs because I think it's hard to pull off. But if you look at what he still has as much as he had before. I do think that for competitive play, the displacement stuff he has is still too powerful, like the pullback on allies. I don't know how it's going to work. I spoke too soon. I did think that even with the nerf that he was still going to be abused in pubs, but I was wrong. But I still think he has too much. But we'll only see when he joins competitive if I'm proven right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much everything I have. Do you guys have anything else you want to add here? We might have another community question or two if we're really itching. But anyone else? Anything you want uncovered by n0tail? Here's your chance.
Man, he opens up, you know?
Yeah.
We don't have to pry. Some of the people we bring on the show require a little more delicate touch.
Yes, that's true. n0tail, it's always a pleasure. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about the famous n0tail?
They can just follow me on Twitter as Fnatic n0tail, and then I'll keep them updated on when I stream. I'm not that I don't know. I'm not that friendly when it comes to the public, I guess. But a lot of people enjoy my stream. So if you wanna know anything about me, I guess that's where you have to go or catch me.
And important to note that the letter in no
it's a zero.
It's not an O. It's a zero.
Thank you.
So just for those of you that are, I tweeted at Fnatic n0tail normal today, and I was very disappointed to find it was an account with 1 follower, not the n0tail that I've come to enjoy. So again, thank you for making time for us. But that does wrap up the second part of our third episode here of In the Studio. Coming up next, we'll have Purge from Purge Gamers joining us all the way from Korea. We're flying him in. No, it's going to be a remote interview, but we're going to talk Korea.
You should have ran with that.
Zephyr. I know. Oh, damn it. I spoiled it too early. So we'll have a short break here, guys. Don't go anywhere. Purge coming up next.